After the release of Spider-Man 2 and trying to come up with a way to bring back OPM onto the channel, I decided to make a little scenario and talk about both in one video, which happens to be Could Garou Hunt Spider-Man / What if Garou replaced Kraven in the Insomniac verse. I will be placing specifically Human Garou in the Insomniac verse to see if he could run the gauntlet and become the true strongest. I guess for a little story, you can just say that the Bang and Garou stuff happens here, and instead of taking on the Hero Society in the One Punch Man universe, he's taking on the heroes here. And since the Avengers are away, like always, he's going after Spider-Man. And firstly, we are going to be talking about what Garou is currently hunting. Oh yeah, before I even talk about any scaling, obviously there are going to be spoilers for Spider-Man 2. I don't think I needed to say that, but you know, here's the warning just for those who are going to complain about it. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Now, in the second game, Peter, at least as anti-Venom, should pretty much scale to Miles, who was able to absorb the majority of a bomb that was going to destroy Harlem. This being calculated at over 480 kilotons of TNT, or large town level. And I already know a lot of you are going to be like, oh, Miles mainly absorbed this through hacks. But everyone forgets to mention that Miles being able to even contain that amount of energy mean he should at least scale somewhat to that said energy. Just because Miles can absorb energy doesn't mean it isn't a struggle for him, and him being able to at least endure the majority of that energy, do what Vegeta did in the Buu Saga, and come out fine, he should at least somewhat scale to that. Peter doesn't necessarily boast showings to this degree, but he does fight Miles with evolved Venom Blast powers in the black suit, and should pretty much be the strongest with his anti-Venom suit. If you're curious as to where red suit or base Spider-Man would scale to, he's probably below Miles since he can't crystallize or harm Sandman really. And throughout that whole boss fight, he was getting low-key bullied. If we say he can survive Miles' blows, then I'd say he's like high-end multi-city block to maybe small town, since Sandman, even just swinging his massive arms around as fast as he does, would hit with over 1.6 kilotons of TNT, or the small town range. But it's super contentious since weak feats like Miles crystallizing Sandman and Venom lifting the football field both being city block level, and Peter pretty much folding to these attacks. But for the sake of the video, I'll give Peter the benefit of the doubt and give him that small town level AP and durability. You happy, guys? You know, those losers who were commenting on my Peter vs. Miles video, you happy?
As for speed, Peter and Miles should both be just pretty much above Electro's lightning, so they should at least be dodging and combating speeds at over Mach 1300. The Spider-Man's hacks are a little interesting to look at. Peter has impact webs, iron spider arms, his gravity bombs, taser webs, and a bunch of other ways to potentially put Garou down. Miles can turn invisible, use electricity, and now has better control over it than ever before. These two, despite getting constantly beat up, have stood tall and in the end kept New York safe, but can they do the same this time?
Now, Garou, oh my god, I'm so excited, I'm talking about Garou, yes my god. Garou in his Hero Hunter era is pretty easy to scale, even after being hit by Saitama, fighting 9 other heroes, getting poisoned, and nearly passing out right after. He then somehow is able to fight a Genos who, in his current state, would demolish his Season 1 and early Season 2 self. This same Genos, who in Season 1 could destroy a portion of a mountain pretty casually, calced at around the town to city levels of energy. And this was Season 1 Genos, mind you, the one who would go on to improve drastically and with each upgrade surpassing his previous self multiple times over. We also know the S-Class themselves can deal with monsters that can wipe out cities, which isn't far-fetched considering Season 1 Genos is in this tier alone. And this is probably the weakest S-Class member if I'm being real. Garou at his peak would wipe out Genos, which is consistent since Garou can fight a pumped up Metal Bat, and one blow from a way less motivated Metal Bat can one-shot the likes of Sentichoro, the same demon level monster who can withstand a Season 2 Genos' blasts. So the city level stuff for Garou is pretty consistent, but is he fast enough to keep up with the spiders? Well, remember when I said Garou was fighting and putting down a stronger Season 2 Genos while at 1 HP? The reason this is important is because Season 2 Genos is able to fight G4, who can shoot light-based lasers, which Genos is able to dodge. I personally believe if he can dodge multiple light beams at once, he's got light speed and combat reaction speeds, but the lowest assessment of this feat that I've seen was at around over 1/4 the speed of light, or over Mach 259,000. And mind you, Garou at 1 HP would scale to this. As for his hacks, the Hero Hunter has a lot in his arsenal, like the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist, which allows him to reflect an opponent's attack with double the force, allowing him to hit vital points, predicting one's movements by seeing their center of gravity and therefore all possibilities. Garou as well has crazy adaptation and likes to take moves from his opponents and use them against them. And on top of all of this, he has insane stamina, can fight for days, has crazy pain tolerance as well, is able to fight while crippled, poisoned, and somehow adapt to the circumstances no matter how much is stacked against him. That concludes both sides, and yeah, both Spider-Men are in a pickle.
Not only do they both get overpowered by Human Garou, but the one that fought Genos might unironically do the job himself. He's not only in a stronger tier, he has more consistency than both of the characters, along with the speed gap also being too big of an issue here. He just straight up blitzes and uses the water stream fist and just cave their skulls in. Even if we equalize stats, the skill gap allows him to just learn how Miles and Peter move, then completely dismantle them before they get the chance to do anything. He'd essentially be Insomniac Taskmaster on crack, and just as strong as Spider-Man on top of that.
Even if he had the symbiote, Peter's just unquantifiably stronger if you argue he's already at least somewhat on Miles' level without the black suit amping him, so it unfortunately makes no real difference in the matchup. He'd probably throw some tendrils to hold Garou back, but he'd just deflect them all and suplex Slambro into unconsciousness.
Miles' Venom might not even work either, since Garou's been electrocuted before and has shown decent resistance to it, along with things that have far more extreme heat than electricity, like Orochi's Fire and Rover's Blast. Symbiote Peter and Miles can legit rush it, bro, with a Venom strike and a kick, and he would just make them both either hit each other or both of them knock each other out with their own moves. He has better precog than their spider sense, which doesn't even work 100% of the time consistently, and he has way more ways of taking them down than vice versa.
We know as well how strong Garou could actually be, since the Genos that Garou fought at 1 HP was estimated to be as strong as Tank Top Master, who the same guy who Garou fought before evolving just got absolutely wombo comboed into submission. Unironically, first appearance Garou probably washes any version of Peter and Miles in this universe. Now, it does go without saying that Peter's definitely had his fair share of opponents that do know a fair amount of martial arts. Silver Sable, Taskmaster, Yuri, etc. However, we don't even know if these guys are professionals in the martial art they partake in, let alone even masters. Like, they probably just have some basic hand-to-hand knowledge. Whereas with Garou, we know that his style is basically trying to get the perfect blend of offense and defense, and even though his skill isn't nearly as refined as Silverfang's, we do know that Garou likes to take his opponent's style and create it into his own. And this ability is something that even Bang found to be quite dangerous, which was the only reason why he intervened in the first place in trying to hunt down Garou. So this ability even had someone like Bang, who is the greatest martial artist in the One Punch Man world at this time, fucking sweating at the fact that Garou's adaptation will eventually become something that he can't even handle. Now, it probably sounds like I'm yapping, but I just need you guys to understand the sheer emphasis in how big the gap is. And not just speed and strength, but also skill. Garou quite literally would do what Raditz did back in the Saiyan Saga against Piccolo and Goku and basically beat them both with one hand each. The Hero Hunter would defeat the Spider-Man with little to no difficulty, and yeah, Garou's him, like I said.